is an asset and it has value. And talking to the right financial stream, you can now.
We purchased it at 410k. Its current value is 900, around 900k.
We make sure we do not offer shoddy accommodation. That's one of the greatest things that needs to be emphasised. If you're going to get into this game, do not do cheap and cheerful, poor quality. Let your standard reflect what you're offering and what you're about.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Welcome in. Hi, welcome to NPC, Nelson Property Consultants, General Property Clinic Q&A, our GP Q&A, where you come and ask all your general property questions, any issues you may have, anything on finance, anything on inherited properties, just any question you might have, you say it and we try our best to answer it. So we do work on a basis that our questions are pre-submitted. And so we have got a few questions this week. We are here the first Wednesday in every month, and we are here for 1 hour. Okay, because it's free, we don't do any extended time. We try to get through as many questions as we can, but those that we don't get to, we do ask that you either book in for a free consultation with us or resubmit it again for another Q&A clinic. Okay, so I'm Deanne Nelson Henry, and I am a consultant here, senior consultant, and this is also my partner, and I will let him introduce himself. Business partner, by the way, guys and ladies. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Good to have you on board. I'm Addy Fabumi Stone, the co-founder with Deanne. Nice to have you on board tonight. I always applaud you that come on, because at the end of the day, you've given up your time to improve and increase your education and knowledge. And if you can make that time to do that, and which you're clearly doing, all power to the elbow. You will gain, you will effect, and you will execute the deals you want to do going forward. So welcome on board. Nice to have you here. So let's crack on. Not too much talking from me. Let's just get to the questions, because that's what people want. Dee, over to you.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. So I think the first question up this week is from, can we post it in the chat box as well, please, guys? This one is from Faith. I don't know if Faith is here with us tonight. Can we see Faith anywhere in the room? If not, I will try to answer Faith's question, and she can pick it up on the recording. So, okay, Faith's question tonight is, can a student visa holder in the UK start a property business, rent to rent, etc.? If yes, how? Okay, so good news or bad news first? Okay, let's go with the bad news first. Bad news is no, your visa doesn't permit. And whilst I'm not an immigration specialist, this is just general knowledge that I know. Your visa doesn't consent you to be a director of a company or to run a business per se like that. So there are restrictions for you with working on that particular type of visa. So you would either need to wait until you are postgraduate, and then you can apply for a different type of visa that will allow you to do that, or apply for a different type of visa in general, like a skilled worker or something like that. If you're not wanting to do that, I think the only other way around it is perhaps if you were to do a business or set up a business with someone else. So you're not a director, because you're not allowed to be a director at all. Be a part of a business as a shareholder, not a director, not involved in the running and the operations of it. But you can invest, you can be a shareholder, you could take dividends, but you cannot be a director. So that's the only way that I can see at the moment around it using your particular visa. You would have to be a shareholder of a company, or you can go and work. I think you may be able to, I'm not saying that for definite, you may be able to work on a part-time basis or limited hours, restricted hours for another type of property company, but definitely not as a director. Okay, but I would definitely seek further advice on that from immigration and just find out if there's any other way around it. But as far as I know, what I've said is correct. Okay. Brilliant. So the next question is from Amelia. Now, if I read these out, do you want to answer Amelia's questions? Would you like to?
I don't mind that. That's fine.
Brilliant. Okay. So Amelia's question to us tonight, she's got 3 questions. Is Amelia on the call? Are you here, Amelia? No? Okay. I'm not sure if she is or if she isn't. Sometimes people are on mute. But anyway, let's read these out. And if for any reason there's anyone who's posted a question and is on the call, please do feel free to say hi to us.
Amelia's posted yes in the chat, Dee.
Ah, she's here.
She's here, yeah.
Hi, Amelia. How are you? She's on mute. Okay. All right. We'll go through your questions first and then we'll take it from there. So Amelia's question to us, number 1, is there any benefit in having an LLP instead of limited for a higher income earner who wants to invest in commercial properties or service accommodation, especially now that the holiday rental mortgage interest can be deducted only at 20%?
Okay, good question, Amelia. Thank you very much for posing that. It's horses for courses, whether you go with an LLP or a limited company. There are some advantages of having an LLP over a limited company, but generally speaking, the structure is one and the same. Because if you think about it, you're going to take your money from the limited company, be it in the form of dividends or salary. You're going to take income from the LLP. It adds on to your income as a whole. And as you rightly said, you're a higher earner. So all it's going to do is add further taxable income to your overall income. Now, again, as Dee pointed out, we're not immigration. We're not tax accountants. What we know is from personal experience. So whether you go with LLP or limited company, there's not a huge difference in terms of what you would gain around a better net income or not. And moving on in terms of the investing in the commercial properties or serviced accommodation, especially with serviced accommodation, for the longest time, serviced accommodation had no category. It was very much earn your money, spend your money, and if there's any little bit of tax to pay, when you file your accounts, you pay your tax. As we know, with Section 24 that came in for the residential market, whereby if you earned 20,000 in rental income and your mortgage expense was 12,000, your net profit was 8. Under the limited company umbrella and even under the service accommodation, you would pay tax on the £8,000. If you had it in your personal name, you'd pay tax on the total income, which was on the £20,000. Now, many property investors moved from having property in their personal name into a limited company so that they could have the benefit of the mortgage expense. And it was said a little while ago that with serviced accommodation, because it's such an anomaly, that they hadn't worked out where to place it. And as you can imagine, with HMRC and the government, they quickly resolved that. So now you only have the 20% allowance on the total income. So on your 20,000 income, you'll only be allowed the 4,000, which is the 20% allowance. So whether you have it in the limit of the LLP, it really is negligible. There is a difference, but it's negligible. And the difference wholly and greatly depends on your own circumstances. But whether you've got it in the LLP or you've got it in a limited company, you will now have to pay tax if you're doing serviced accommodation, higher tax than you had before. But the structure you have it in, as long as it's one of the two, will be the most tax efficient way to run that business. Yeah. So personal names are becoming a thing of the past. I know when if you're my era, when you got into it at first, it was all about buying in personal names, because if you bought in limited companies, you paid a penalty. interest rate may be 4.25 for me personally, but 4.55 or 4.6 for a limited company. So we all move towards the personal names to get the best deals, not knowing that this thing called Section 24 would come, and it's near really now affecting us. So limited company or LLP, whichever you prefer, put it to your accountant, put it to your solicitors, and find out with your circumstances what is the best way forward. Okay?
Can I just add to that as well there, Addy, that obviously a good way to buy commercial is with your SaaS. And so, and with your SaaS, you know, you can use your SaaS with your with a limited company. So definitely get some more information in terms of SIP advisors, SaaS advisors, if that's the route that you want to go down in terms of commercial, because that might be actually dependent again on your circumstances, and how much, if you've got, you know, enough investment monies to start one of those off, that might actually be, you know, the way to, or the route to go down. So it would be good to actually kind of get a little bit more meat on the bone as well, just to find out about your personal circumstances, and then speak with perhaps one of our specialist advisors and one of our power team, or refer you to someone that can guide you a little bit, you know, more direct in terms of your circumstances.
And
so
just so in case, because I'm not trying to teach anyone how to suck eggs, but SIPs and SASs are forms of pensions. So you're using your pension to purchase commercial property, just to clear that up.
Thank you, Addy, because I'm talking to people like everybody and taking it for granted that everyone always knows, and they don't. So thank you very much for reminding us there. Okay, right. So the second question from Amelia was, what tax allowances are available for different property investment strategies?
Well, I think, Amelia, that is such a broad stroke question that I actually can't tell you exactly what the answer is, because you asked two. It's like you've got a brush in your right hand and a brush in your left hand, and you're saying tax allowances and property investment strategies. That both areas are so wide. When it comes to tax allowances, you have to speak to your accountant. Do not let anybody tell you this is your allowance, because your allowances, again, will depend on your individual circumstances. So people may have opinions, they may have comments, they may have advice, but that's all it can be. To get the holy grail, go to your accountant. If you don't have one, if you come along and talk to us at NPC, we'll happily introduce you to one of our power team. They'll give you a free consultation, tell you what it's all about, and what the breaks are and the advantages, and obviously you can then take advantage of those. The same thing goes for property strategies. I mean, where do we start? Buy to let, service to accommodation, rent to rent, deal sourcing, flips, commercial, mix. It goes on and on. So, Amelia, whilst I want to answer your question, we'd literally sit for at least half a day and go through all of that. So it's difficult to say what tax allowances are available for what strategies. You have to go and speak to the accountant or come to us and we'll put you in touch with our power team. And one of the great things we can do is we can have a round table with the accountant, yourself, one of us, and your lawyers as well. So we'd introduce the accountant, we'd introduce the lawyer, we'd sit in there with you and you'd be present. And we can have that round table where you can ask your questions and expand on that. I think that one, Amelia, you've got to just come and sit with us and let's help you and hold your hand and let's get you through that, because it is so true. Many people don't use their tax allowance. It is such a shame.
Yeah.
The other day, someone was talking to me about capital allowances. Someone was talking to me about capital allowances. What are those? And I actually applauded the person because I thought, you've actually gone out there and found out these thing called capital allowances. The fact you don't know what they are, that's not a problem. We can deal with that. Come and chat and we'll tell you what they are. But you've gone and done some work and found out these things exist. So get your information, get your knowledge, come and sit with us and we'll make sure it's solid. You were going to say anything?
I was going to say, I must admit, I haven't been in commercial property for 20 years now, I never knew about capital allowances until recently. So, so we can't profess to know everything, but, and that's why it's important to get your education, your learning, because once I learned about it, I thought, well, this is great, fantastic. It's something that I didn't know, or extra money that I didn't know I could have at my disposal, which you can take and fund your property journey. So great. But yeah, definitely worth having that discussion. It's very personal. And it's, very much about your own personal circumstances. So, okay, last question from Amelia is, a mortgage advisor told me there are very few mortgages available for a buy-to-let limited company where the director and sole shareholder is a first-time buyer, as they don't own a property yet as an individual. Are such directors and sole shareholders who are first-time buyers via limited required to give personal guarantees to obtain a mortgage? Okay, good question, Amelia. And I'll give you a real life scenario. I knew someone who was buying a property. It was actually a relative, a family member, and it was two of them buying a property, and they set up the limited company because they didn't want to do it in their name. We know we're moving away from that. However, they were not able to get the borrowing. Reason being, they were not deemed to be experienced investors. And so they wouldn't take two newbies as two directors on the company, as the two people that were going to be able to buy this property on their own. So what happened is that I jumped on board. One of them jumped off, and that was more to do with their credit rating. Anyway, it was causing an issue with the application. The other one stayed on. Their credit rating was good, but they still didn't have the experience. And I very much needed to, in effect, be able to be a guarantor. So, and whilst I wasn't, asked to be a guarantor per se, they were comfortable with the fact that I have properties behind me. I've got property businesses behind me. And so in effect, that's what I was actually being. I was the one that was going to guarantee that should anything go wrong, they would know who they would come after. So yeah, it's difficult. As we speak, there are always different lenders coming to the market. Sometimes, depending on who the lenders are, bridging is very much an unregulated market. So sometimes you might find that bridging lender, if that's the route that you're going to go down in terms of borrowing, you might find that bridging lender who might give you, some funds based on the fact that you're not an experienced investor, but chances are, I would guess, that they're going to charge you an interest rate that's through the roof. So it's very much advisable to do that with someone who is an experienced property investor, or someone who can at least stand as guarantor in terms of the assets that they have behind them. Okay, so
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
I think the market is changing so much at the moment, and there are always lenders coming into the market trying to poach some clients from their existing relationships and stuff like that. So some of them will come to the market quite aggressively, but even if they accept you as a first-time buyer, and you want to do it in a limited company, you've got to be realistic about it. I set up shelf companies so that when I'm ready to buy a property, I can put it straight into that company, but I have to be realistic. It is a shelf company. It has no value. The fact that company is taking a mortgage, now, if it all goes wrong, they have to only rely on taking ownership of that property and selling it through the receivers. So you have to be realistic. If you had £1 million and someone came to you and said, would you give me £1 million to buy this property, and your security is solely the property, not many are going to say yes. But the fact you've got good credit, that will help. The fact they're going to credit check you. The company has only been set up recently. They will check you and any other directors on that company. So make sure you're going in with either clean directors or even yourself, if you're doing it by yourself, as a clean director. And then the personal guarantee, some lenders may not ask for it, but most will, because if it doesn't work out, where do they then go to get their money other than the property? So in a nutshell, really what I'm saying is I concur with D 100%, but if that is you, search the market. Come and speak to us. We've got some very good in-house brokers. And I know, because I spoke to one the other day from my younger sister, funny enough, she has no property and she was looking at something. And I'm saying some options came up. So do the research. Come and speak to us. We'll introduce you. You have the chat. You tell them your circumstances and let's see what they can get you.
Brilliant. Victoria has just asked, what is a shelf company?
Okay, what it is if I'm going to buy a property, hopefully in April, then if I set the company up on the 1st of April and go for a loan on the 3rd of April, yeah, you can do, but it would be better if you bought a company now. And I bought ones if I was going to buy a property in April. I've got 2 shelf companies where they're companies I registered as limited companies and they just sat there. They weren't trading. I'd file my accounts and say not trading. So some company I've had for a year and a half and I've never done anything with it. But when I'm ready to go and buy something, all of that work is done. So I can just say, here's my limited company name. These are my details. I'd like a mortgage, please. Yeah. So a shelf company is just a company you set up and it sits there for a while until you're ready to use it.
Brilliant. And in doing that, Addy, just so that people can understand, do you file or a SIC code with a dormant SIC code, I should say, of all the 9s, or do you not? Do you file it as an active company?
I file it as an active company. I take the SIC code. It's normally 68 or 618. Can't remember what it is, but that's around the property trading, letting, investing and whatnot. It's the 6s. And then what I do is I just file dormant accounts or non-trading accounts on a yearly basis. And I actually do that myself because it's so simple. Just log on company's house and it's not a hard task. Whereas an accountant may charge you a couple of £100, but I can tell you it's a 5-minute process.
It is a 5-minute job. I literally did one last month, and it takes a couple of minutes. And literally, if I can do it, anyone can. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Addy. Okay, right. So where are we? I think that's all of Amelia's questions answered. So shall we go on to the next one? That is from Cliff. I don't know if Cliff is in the room. If he is, Cliff, would you like to just give us a little bit of meat on the bone for this question? Because it's not really a question, it's kind of more of a statement, and it would be great to get a deeper understanding. So you've said renter's bill and tenant eviction. Can you explain what you mean by that? What's your question to us? Is Cliff in the room? He is indeed. Cliff, can you unmute and give us a little bit more?
Yes, this is about the renter's bill that's in process or in the making. Right now, I have a tenant in a property that I'm trying to get them evicted. It's been dragging on for more than 6 months, and I haven't made any progress. And I'm worried about the renter's bill and how that might impact trying to get them out.
Okay. I'll take this one, Dee, if it's all right, because I'm in court too much this year or last year. So I'm evicting tenants, unfortunately. It's that time of financial and the economy not looking as great as we would like it to. So I can relate to you totally there, Cliff. Now, the reality is, and I'm not going to be specific, but nowadays evictions are, if they're individuals that you're evicting, depending on whether it's due to rent arrears, ASBOs, or just straight, I want them out. I want them out, Section 21, 8 to 12 months. Section 8 or ASBO and Section 8, I say rent arrears, then normally I'm finding between 3 to 6 months I'm getting a result. Where I find I get a very good result is where I've let to a limited company. It appears that the courts really do jump on that and you don't have to go through all the Section 1 and whatnot, but that's not your question. The main thing is that the Renters Reform Bill, if they remove Section 21, and it's been said very clearly. If they remove the Section 21, which nullifies your ability to just take your property back for any reason, there will be other things that will come in to allow you to evict tenants who are problematic, be it through rent arrears, be it through you just want them out because you've had enough and you want to sell it. There is talk about, as part of the Renters Reform Bill, that if you ask a tenant to leave because you want to sell it, you have to give that tenant first call on the purchase of that property. But again, there's going to be lots of bits that are going to come up from it. Once it's totally endorsed and ratified, we will see what comes. You cannot have a sector, a property sector, where you are letting it to people, you're letting that property to people or companies, and you are able to get them out. What the government are concerned about is where you just throw people out for no reason. The tenant complains about a block sink. Oh, Section 21, get out, you're a problem. I mean, why? I don't know. The fact the tenant's told you it's blocked, do something about it, or say to them it may be their responsibility. But 9 times out of 10, sitting down with a tenant and having a chat, you don't really need to get to serve Section 21s. You don't need to really force them to come out of the place. As I said, unless you have other plans, in which case there will be ways in which you can get the tenant out. And if it's about buying it and the current tenant wants to buy it, you've got a buyer there and then. So that's maybe not a bad thing. It may be they move out because they can't buy it and someone else comes to the market. But they won't leave us in a situation where a tenant can sit there indefinitely and us not be able to evict them.
From a point of view of affordability, they got rent arrears, £7,000. So they can't afford even to maintain the rent they should be paying. They haven't had any rental increase for about 10 years. Because if I'm trying to get them out to move my property on and to do the necessary repairs and put it back on the market. But until I get them out, I can't even do those things.
Well, let me share with you what happened to me. In fact, it was last Thursday. Yippee! I finally got my tenants out. They went in there as a favor to somebody, totally against my norm, which is I always insist on a guarantor. They were desperate. They needed to move. Okay. I went with it. After 2 months, they stopped paying rent. Fortunately, there's a 6-month break clause in my tenancy. I went straight through the courts via my solicitor. I didn't try and do it myself, even though I do know how, because if you make one mistake, the judge throws it out and then you're back to stage one again. If the solicitor makes a mistake and the judge throws it out, you have the conversation with the solicitor about, well, you got it wrong. And now I'm 2-3 months behind. And I've had that experience where a law firm has actually paid me for the about 2 months where they paid me because they had made a mistake. And I said, well, that's your mistake. I can't be made to now take longer to get them out and it cost me even more. So that was very good in that case. But the one thing I would say, if you use a good solicitor, if you use somebody who knows what they're doing, I had the hearing and I'm looking at my calendar. I had my hearing on the 9th of October and I finally got them out with the bailiff on the, when was it? Last week, Thursday. So what was that? I don't know what date that was anyway, but it was last week, Thursday. I know I turned up there. They had a dog, so I had to pay for a dog handler to be there. They were problematic tenants, so I had to make sure the locksmith was there. So once I get them out, we change the locks. The bailiff turned up. So it's like a party outside their front door. Fortunately, they'd moved out. Dog handler wasn't needed, but I did change the locks. So it is possible. You just need to keep pushing and make sure you've got a good solicitor who keeps pushing the court, pushing the court, pushing the court. You should be getting them out. And sorry, can I just finish off? Sorry, one last thing. Don't worry about your rent arrears. When you finally get them out, you go back to court and you get a money order. Once you get a money order, you can then put an attachment of earnings onto their income. So you can go to their employers and their employers have an obligation to pay you a certain amount every month. And that follows them from employer to employer. So you'll eventually get your money. Slow, but you'll eventually get it.
Thanks for that.
I was just going to ask, Cliff, out of interest, did you ask for any guarantors when you take any of your tenants, or do you?
Well, this particular tenant has been in there, started as a couple. They had a baby and they had a breakup in their relationship. And it's the lady that's left behind with the son. And it's been over 10, 14 years now. So that's where we started. So it's not
Okay.
quite the same as something recent to talk about guarantors. They were both able and capable at the time, and then matters and things changed.
Yeah, got that. Okay. And in terms of the rental increase, I mean, I know you were saying that they've been on the same rent there, or they've had no increase for, did you say 10 years?
Yes.
10 years. And I take it that was that your decision not to give them a rental increase? I take it must have been, yeah?
It must have been, because that is the case. We started off with an estate agent, and they seem to have evaporated out of the picture. They're charging me something like £1,000 a year renewal fees just to have the tenant in the house. And after umpteen years, they just withered and disappeared. So I had to pick up the pieces and start writing my own short hold tenancy agreements with the tenant, and I kept on doing that. And the last occasion, a couple of years ago, the tenant refused to sign the short hold tenancy agreement.
Well, you see, the thing is, I mean, what
I was managing it myself, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, what I generally do is, obviously I may well get an agent to find me, a tenant or whatever. And, way back when, from whenever, agents always did that, it comes to the end of the 12 months and then they want to charge you again for the tenant renewing. And for me, if they're going over to an SPT, statutory periodic tenancy, then I refuse to pay them any more because they're not renewing for another 12 months. They're going on a month by month rolling basis. It does mean that there's less notice period on either side, from me, from them. But for me, then I'm saying, well, I'm not renewing the AST. We're just going on to a rolling statutory periodic tenancy. One thing I must say to others on here is that you do yourself no favors as a landlord by not increasing your rent. Okay, because by doing that, you're actually devaluing your own property. Because when you come to refinance and it's based on a rent that was from 10 years ago, there, it does. It just basically, you shoot yourself in the foot, because buy-to-let mortgages are based on the rental income. And if you want to refinance and pull your monies out, yes, they will look at the property value, but they're very much looking at the rental income, because they will determine how much they will give you based on that. And if you haven't increased it, then you are shooting yourself in the leg, because you want to be able to refinance that and further fund your property journey. So, what I would say is, as hard as it can be sometimes, and sometimes tenants might be in a little bit of difficulty, and we understand that we don't want to be insensitive or incompassionate. But what we do need to do is sit down around a table and have a discussion with them and say, well, I can give you a reprieve for, say, 2 months or 3 months or whatever, while you sort this situation out. But at such and such a day, I will be looking to review this to increase the rent. Okay, so I would say always stay on top of that. Adi, is there anything else you want to add to that before we move on?
I'm fine.
I'll ask you the other questions offline, because I don't want to take up all the time with my question.
Appreciate that, Cliff.
No problem. Excellent. So the next question is from Hannah, and I know Hannah is on the call. Hannah has said, or asked, as a newbie in property business, what are the processes of acquiring property for a supported living provider? Thank you. Okay. Hi, Hannah. Hi. Feel free to unmute yourself if need be, but I'll get on with answering your question. Okay. So what are the processes of acquiring property? I would say, there's a number of ways to do this. You can go to your local borough or to the borough that you're interested in investing in and find out, what care providers they are working with. Say, for instance, you were interested in the child protection area, or you were interested in the elderly care area. You can go to your borough and ask them under the Freedom of Information Act who they are working with as care providers. and what the demand is, what the demands are within the borough. But alternatively, you can source your own care providers. Now, they are all around us. They are people. I mean, it's almost as though it's the latest strategy, and a lot of people are thinking, oh God, where can I find them? They are actually all around us. And I think most of us have either family members or friends or someone who knows a carer, or someone who works as a carer. And those care providers are working for care companies. So it's about sourcing. You can Google, care providers in your area, registered providers, housing associations as well, who work hand in hand with the councils or the local boroughs in order to provide supported living care. Now, what happens is, what I'm doing is establishing relationships with care providers, finding out what their demands are. So, for instance, there's a property that I'm mid-flight with at the moment. That particular property, I had 2 supported living care providers come down to view it. One was for elderly care, one was for a small boutique children's care home. Both were interested, and the rent that they were paying or offering was literally double the market rent. But that's because the pay that they are going to be receiving from the local borough for these I should say, I won't say tenants, but, for the people that are going to be living there, whether the children or elderly, it's much higher. They will be receiving payments for caring for those people, and they pass on those higher rents to you. Sometimes they will even renovate the property according to their spec. So what it is having established those relationships is I can now go out and buy properties that I know that care provider will want. It's almost like shopping to order, buying to order. It's very much about sourcing them, establishing the relationships. You need to find out, what is it, what's the demand, what's their area of speciality, what's the lease of their length of their lease rather, what type of leases do they offer? Is it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? What type of rates do they pay? What type of properties is it that they're looking for? Find out all of those things and then shop to order. Okay?
Can I add something?
Thank you. Yeah. Go for it, Annie.
Kind of very quickly. You're going to be signing up with companies. These care providers are limited companies who have directors and shareholders. I sign up some of my properties with shareholders, but I want you to hear this loud and clear. I want you really, really, really to hear this. No matter who you're renting it to, no matter how much they offer you, make sure you get that guarantor. Because when the council don't pay them, they won't have the money to pay you. They may have good cash flow and may be able to do it for a couple of months. But as we know, many boroughs are struggling at the moment. I beg you, please, do not rent any form of property without a guarantor. Where I've let mine, the director or the directors, one of them must give me a guarantor agreement, must act as guarantor. So when the council give them problems, I don't really panic. It may affect my cash flow, but I know you are going to pay me. And that lets me sleep at night. That's it, Dee.
Brilliant. Okay. Does it answer your question, Hannah?
Yes, it does. Thanks a lot. And I've been greedy. I've put another one in the chat, but I'll wait till everyone is answered. But thanks a lot. That's very helpful.
Hannah, I did see that one. I think give us a shout outside of here. It's not a hard one, but you need to really know what to do. It's all to do with a short lease. How do I extend it? And this forum is not long enough for me to give enough detail on that, but that's my specialism. Short leases, you get good deals.
Thank you. I will.
Brilliant. Okay. So thank you for that question. Don't forget, Hannah, very much about establishing those relationships with care providers, and people are doing it. So just, look at your areas for investment and look at those care providers. If they're operating there, start to build those relationships, and then you'll be able to know what properties you're looking for. Okay. Brilliant. All right. So the next question is from Charmaine. Is Charmaine on the call? Let's have a look. We got Charmaine in the room. Can't see Charmaine. So what I will do is it's not really a question. So shall we? I think I'm going to skip that one. Addy, have you got that in front of you?
Yeah, I think you're right. If it's because it's so wide and diverse. if Charmaine's not here to drill down on what exactly she's looking for, we could take the whole of the rest of the session and beyond to answer that.
Yeah, definitely. So if Charmaine, if you do end up appearing from somewhere, then please do give us a little bit more meat on the bone. But we can't really answer your question as it stands because it's just very wide and very broad. We need a little bit more detail there. Okay, so moving on to Siobhan. Siobhan, is Siobhan in the room?
I am. Hello.
Excellent.
Hi,
Hello. How are
Hello,
you?
guys.
Right, okay, so your question to us tonight is, hi Deanne, I'm an accidental landlord and I need support with defining a property strategy. Okay, do you want to give us a little bit of the backstory to you, Siobhan?
Yep. So what I mean by accidental landlord is I bought a property quite young and then moved back home, bought another one, fortunately. Then I got married and bought a third, but they're all in my personal name. And as you mentioned earlier in the call, yes, we've moved away from that. And it's not very tax efficient. It's very expensive. And right now I want to get serious about this business. So yeah, that is why I'm seeking out some advice and
Okay, so it's not
better planning.
Okay, planning. So it's not so much about the strategy then. When you say you need support defining a strategy, I thought you were talking about what's a good strategy for you to do or what might be a good strategy for you to do. It's more about your current portfolio then. And okay, so whilst we all know that it's better to be in a limited company structure, it is, again, still personal and according to what you've got and where you are in terms of your tax bracket, it still may well be, beneficial to have, if it's one or two, just keeping them in your personal name as opposed to transferring them over because obviously, you do trigger stamp duty and things like that. So it's got to be, you've got to cost up the exercise really and find out, is it more cost effective for me to leave those properties where they are and moving forward, do everything under a limited structure? Or is it more cost effective for me to take a hit on the stamp duties, incorporate and then move forward anyway? So again, it's about knuckling down, us probably sitting in a room with you, seeing what you've got, where you are, what your financial position is, and having a look at what that exercise might cost you to do and what it might cost you to stay as you are. Okay. I think that's probably the best thing. And again, Addy very much deals with incorporating. He's put his hand up there. We have a lot of people coming to us for that. That's what we do. We help people to incorporate, but we do have to look at your circumstances and just unpack everything first. Okay. So don't panic too much about having a couple of properties in your name. I'm not saying that you won't incorporate, but just for the minute, don't panic too much. It is very personal as to where you are, what you're earning, and then, we will take a look at it and decide from there how to move forward.
Thank you, Deanne. Yes, Daddy.
Putting his hand up. He's saying, I want to help.
I want to help. Siobhan, listen, when the Section 24 came in 2000 and when was it? 2016, maybe 14. I went through exactly this. I went to all the specialists, I paid my fees and whatever, and I can tell you categorically, having done it, you can transfer them and account for them away from your personal name into a limited company without paying capital gains and without paying stamp duty.
Well, that's music to my ears, okay?
I live it. That's why I'm like, hey, no, Siobhan, I need your help. But Dee is right. It may be better, depending on your circumstances, to keep one as your personal. It could be your residential and whatever. Maybe that's about the only one because my residential is in my personal name. But everything else is run through the limited company. I cannot have taxes on purely my income. It just does not work. My mortgage, when interest rates were high, my mortgage payments were 22,000 and my rent income was 20,000. So I'm already losing £2,000 a year. And then on top of that, You want to tax me on 20,000? No. Definitely not. Come and see us.
I'm coming.
Can I
That's
just
music to
say
my
that-
ears, actually. Thank you.
Can I just say that when Addy was going through that journey, that's when he lost his hair, wasn't it, Ad?
Oh, wow.
Well, it was a bit earlier than that, but it was a tenant.
Oh dear, I remember it well, Addy. I remember
it was stressful.
He was literally going to meetings every week just to find someone that could help him. So he's done all the work. But what I would say, because sometimes accountants can give you conflicting advice, and I have seen accountants give advice where people have only had sort of 1, 2, 3 properties. Sometimes accountants have advised, look, it's not worth moving it over. So different accountants can give different advice for different situations. And that's why I say it's good to come in and unpack it, have a look, and then take it from there. Yeah, generally, as Addy said, it's correct. But I have seen situations where accountants are given the advice for 1 or 2, leave them as they are. So.
All right. Well, thank you both. Thank you, Eddie.
No
All
problem.
right.
Glad to be of help.
Well, you can see I'm losing my hair for the same reason.
Well, Cliff, we can't see you, but we have to take your word for it.
Can you see me now?
Okay.
You can't see me.
No.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
let's
we
move on.
can.
I'm conscious of time. We
yeah.
just past 7:45.
That's fine. I was going to say, don't worry, Cliff. It's we can make your hair grow back. Don't worry.
I still got some hair. Here I am. I still got some hair. Though.
What are you talking about? You've got more than me. How can you be talking? Anyway, let's move on.
Oh dear. Right. Okay. So the next question is from Robert. Is Robert in the room? And if you are, Robert, then please do unmute and say hi. But for the meantime, I am going to read out your questions. You have 2. The first one is, how do I find properties for sale to renovate and resell for profit? I think they call it buy below market value.
Okay.
Addy.
Should I take this one, Dave? Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Well, Robert, I think like you and everybody on this call, we're all looking for below market value properties. So if you can imagine, there's 60 odd of us on this call and all of us are looking for it. That's just on this call. Imagine what it's going to be like. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. They don't just pop up at you and someone says, oh, Robert, you want a below market value? I've got one. Go in my pocket and pull it out and say, there you go. Everybody is looking for that below market value property, especially if you want to do a flip, because the cheaper you get it, you spend your money on it, then you go and sell it at market value. The more profit you will make. If you buy it at market price, put your money in to do it up and then sell it, your profit's going to be very small. Sometimes it's even a McDonald's Happy Meal. I've seen the developments done like that where people are walking away with next to nothing. So we're all looking for it. How you find them is doing things like this, coming onto forums like this, networking, doing your own research, Zoopla, Rightmove, Property Filter. There's so many different ways, but you've got to get out there and make connections. One of the things I always do, I have 3 estate agents I work with very closely in different areas. One in more central London, one around Clapham, and one out in Croydon. I like South London. When it comes to commercial, I have 2 commercial estate agents or surveyors who I work with. They tend to pass deals to me or they email me and say, is this of interest? I'd say probably 8 times out of 10, it's not of great interest, but there's always that little gem. And you have to keep, kissing frogs. And eventually one will turn into a maiden. But it's all about just being out there, talking to people and searching. Honestly, we're all looking for below market value properties. And if you can get one and you grab it quick, this is where the various forms of finances come in. Just make sure you do all your due diligence before you sign on the dotted line and exchange. That's key. But yeah, I think we're all looking for them, Robert. That's all I can say. Get out there, come and talk to us. Sometimes we have projects that come which are beyond our scope or they're a little bit too small for what we want to do. And we're happy to pass them on. And sometimes we end up becoming the JV partner with that person who takes them off us. So we can all make some money. But yeah, it's we're all looking for it. All I can say.
I would say speak to people as well. You know, I would honestly say that for Addy and I now, we generally don't even go out looking for properties. Properties come to us. You know, they land on our desk on a weekly basis, and that's because people know what we do. And so, you know, it's about talking to people. You know, if you let people know you do property, you know, when someone passes, you know, if it's the parents of someone, they might think of you and say, okay, my mum's passed, my dad's passed, my granddad, or whatever. You know, that property is going to be sold. Are you interested? Before it hits the market. You know, people get divorced and need to sell. You know, people for various reasons. Sometimes people are getting repossessed. You know, for various reasons, people need to sell. And for me, that might be where you pick up a real true BMV, is by getting it before it hits the market. You see, because once it hits the market, everybody's at it, and then people start to bid. It becomes a bidding war. Whereas if you get it before it hits there, you know, that might be where you really pick up a good deal. And I've had negotiations with vendors before, which creative finance, creative ways of buying, and they've been open to it as well. So, you know, I would just say let everyone and anyone and everyone know what you do, and let people come to you with those properties, in addition to the networking, as well as BNI as well. When you go join BNI, you're the only property investor in that room, as opposed to PINs and other property investment networking. And when you are in that room with those people, a lot of them are tradesmen. A lot of these trades guys, they are working in houses where sometimes people talk to them and say, oh, I'm wanting to sell, or I'm getting divorced, or I'm blah, blah, blah. And they can come back to you as the property investor in the room at the BNI and say, well, look, here's a property. Do you want a JV on it? I'll be happy to do the works. I'll be happy to whatever. So, you know, it's about being strategic, but letting people know what you do so things come to you, as opposed to you going out to chase it.
Okay.
You just tell them what BNI is and PIN. Because I'm listening.
Sorry, BNI, Business Networking International, and PIN, Property Investors Networking, or Network. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, forgive me, guys. We use these terms day in, day out, so it just rolls off the tongue. But forgive me. Right. Okay. So where are we now? Robert's question number 2. Can you put me in touch?
Just before we go on to this, can I suggest now, this is our last question, because I'm conscious of the time and we've got some bits we want to share with the attendees tonight.
If we get through it quick, we've got one more, Addy, because Wendy's not here. So we could do the last one as well. I can do the last one really quickly. So we can get... So, yeah. So question number 2, can you put me in touch with people or organisations who would be interested in financing the purchase and renovation of a project for a return on their loan? That's Robert's second question, Addy.
Robert, I'm here. That's it. I'm here. Okay. You come to us with deals that stack. If one of us, myself, Dee, or one of our other strategic partners doesn't invest in it, we'll bring you investors to the table. It's what we do at Nelson Property Consultants. It's literally, at the moment, I'm in the process of selling some of my portfolio, which will raise some income. And I'm not looking for it to sit in my bank and do nothing. I just don't want to do deals anymore. I don't want to do I do deals. I just don't want to do developments anymore. I've had my time. I've got the T-shirt, the badge, the mug, the pen, everything. Let the next generation come. But I'd still like to make some money in property. So if it's the right deal, Robert, start with us. Yeah, and you probably won't go any further than that, because if we don't do it in-house, we'll have someone who will come and do it with you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Not a problem.
Okay, Robert. Thank you for joining us, Robert, by the way. Nice to see you again. Okay,
Likewise.
so the question, great, hope to see you again soon. The last question, we're going to skip Wendy's, because again, Wendy's not in the room, and we needed some more meat on the bone with that one. So the last one is from Michelle, and I believe Michelle is in the room. So Michelle has asked, yes, I would like to know about Airbnb rent to rent, what the upfront cost is and how it works. So Airbnb, that's the good question, Michelle. Thank you. I just actually took back a property from someone who I had rented out, and they had it as a running it as service accommodation. They took it from me on a rent to rent. So basically how it works is that obviously you, the landlord, will rent out your property to someone, a company, not someone, a company who will then rent it out at a higher price to what they are paying you. So that you as a company might pay me as a landlord a certain amount of rent, which might be slightly below the market value or the market value. You will then rent on to someone else. A lot of people do serviced accommodation, holiday lets, so that they can get a nightly room rate, which brings a higher rent, as opposed to doing it on an AST, a short hold tenancy for a family or a couple or whoever. And so they earn more money on it. Now, the thing that you need to bear in mind are the setup costs. Sometimes people go in negotiating. You might come to me and negotiate and saying, okay, can I take your property? And if I take your property, I would like to have, a rent-free period for a month or 2 months or 3 months. I don't want to pay a deposit because I'm going to take the property from you for 5 years with no void periods, guaranteed rent for that 5 years. So therefore, can we negotiate on that? I may or may not say yes on that. I may say, no, I want my deposit, or I might say, yes, you can have a rent-free period for 1 or 2 months. The reason you're going to negotiate that is because you want to set the property up in a nice way so that you can then rent it on. So there might be a little bit of expenditure for you in terms of furnishing the property, or bringing it up to a standard that would be appealing to somebody who might want to rent it out as an Airbnb. So what I would say is, whilst it's a good strategy to get in, and it is, I know people that have built up companies doing that, and they've got like 12, 18, 20 properties on their portfolio. And if you build up enough of those, you can then sell that company with the property portfolio because it has a value. But you do have to bear in mind that you need to be able to have a buffer there to, number one, kickstart it, and number two, make sure that you can cover your landlord's payments. Because when you don't manage to rent it out, you still have to pay your landlord because you are guaranteeing the rent. So the more properties you have in your portfolio, the better, because you can spread the costs. So again, if you want to go any deeper than that, please do book in with us, have a consultation, and we can, a free consultation, by the way, and we can try and guide and direct you further into that. In terms of how you can kickstart that journey. What I would also say is go out and get some learning on it, some education. There are lots of courses out there where you can learn about rent to rent, or you can learn about rent to serviced accommodation. Perhaps get some learning under your belt, do a couple of courses before embarking on that journey as a business. Okay, hopefully that answers.
At that point, no, finish off, please. Sorry.
Yeah, hello. Question, but if there's any come to us, yeah, sorry, I think someone was trying to come in.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. You mentioned Wendy's not here.
Oh,
which Wendy are you talking about? Because I am very much here. So I don't know whether you read my question.
Your name. I didn't see your name. I searched through the box for Wendy, and I just saw Her Majesty Queen. But can I just wrap up with Michelle first? I think you were going to say something there as well, Addy, were you?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say it emphasizes again the fact you've shared with Michelle that she needs to acquire some learning. Is at Nelson Property Consultants, what we try not to do is take you through the long process of the education. What we try to do is you bring your issue and we execute to your desire. So you want to buy something, we'll help you buy it. You want to rent it out, we'll show you how to rent it. You want to do, we'll show you how to do it, and we'll hold your hand during that process. What we don't do is say, come and sit down with us for the next 6 weeks or over a weekend and we'll educate you on a subject. That's not what we do. I just wanted to emphasize on that point. And it probably is very aptly now because it's 8:01. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, Ad, what are you saying there? Right. Okay. When Wendy just mentioned she's in the room. Wendy,
Wendy, I'll tell you what we'll do. Wendy, yours will be the first question, or if you want to come to us outside of this, but we'll make your question the first question of next month. Background team or behind the scenes operations. Can you make a note of that, please? So Wendy will be, and it's Wendy Cameron, in case there are other Wendy's, but her question will be the first next week, or next month, I say next week. And as I said, Wendy, if you want to come outside of here and approach us, that's not a problem at all.
I'll do that. I'll do that because I need to know ASAP. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Not a problem. Okay.
Thank
well,
you.
that brings us to an end of today's Q&A. Once again, like to thank everybody for coming on board and giving us that 1 hour of your time. Hopefully we've been informative. You've taken some great learning, some great information, some great knowledge. But as I said just a moment ago, remember, we execute, we don't educate. You may get education along the way, but there's no point in getting all that education and doing nothing with it. We want you to now take action and make sure you achieve what you want to achieve with that education you've got. So at Nelson Property Consultants, you can come to us at any time. We always try and run a promotion of some sort or the other, just to incentivize people to come and take that first step in their journey. So this month, we are, as our special offer for the month of March, Jess, if you could put it up on the screen, I'll run through it. We have a special offer of anybody who's come on the call today. We're happy to give you a free consultation at no charge whatsoever. It can hopefully answer your query in that consultation, but if not, and we need more time, obviously we'll make ourselves available and we can work alongside you and make sure we fulfill what your needs are. So as Jess has put up here, you can enjoy a free 20-minute consultation exclusive to GP clinic attendees. We used to give it to others, but now because the amount of demand we're getting, we've decided to give it to those who have taken an hour out of their time today. They deserve the free consultation. So get in touch and we'll definitely do that for you. Secondly, for the first sign-ups, we are giving a 30% discount off of the standard or the retail price of our services. The discounts apply to either on the package or by the hour, whichever you decide. Again, our terms are there. If you want to have them sent out to you, that's not a problem. That request can be made or automatically after your free consultation, we will send them to you. As I said, it's only available for the first 5 people. Now, we have a habit sometimes of dilly-dallying, delay, mañana, tomorrow, procrastination. If that's you, that's you. But at some point, you've got to change the record. First 5, it's there for you, 30% discount. If you don't take it, not a problem, but you've got to do something with your property journey. If you've done all the education and now you need to execute, then this is a good opportunity to get it at a discounted price. What we've done also is in terms of how payments can be made. You go to our website, you register and book your free consultation. That's via our website. We'll then, the ops team will get in touch with you. Having filled in your details, they'll know your contact details. They'll get in touch with you, give you the opportunity through Calendly, which is an open diary, allowing you to book a slot that is convenient for you. And then it will be myself, Deanne, or one of the other consultants who work with us who will give you that free consultation. Going forward, if you decide to take up our services, there are various methods by which you can pay. And I'm proud to say we've now teamed up with Klarna, who offer flexible payment terms. What we don't want you to do is pay all your money and then find you've got nothing less to embark on your journey. So one of the things we had to look at is how can you pay over a period of time? So we're glad and proud to say that we've teamed up with Klarna. So we have a flexible payment option available. We have the card payments, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and even we have Link, which is a fast and secure transaction platform. So there are various ways you can pay. We do believe it's good value for money. Come and talk to us with the free consultation. See if it's something that we can help you with. If it's not, continue on your journey until we can, but always know that we're here to assist in any way you need and any way we can. Dee, I'm going to hand over to you because I can see that big smile and your hand waving, so I'll be told off after.
No, I I was just going to say that we do try our best to make it accessible for you, because, you know, we do recognise that there's a gap here for a lot of people. You know, they do get the education, but then they still don't get to do and achieve what they want to achieve. And that's why we do like to make sure that we hold your hand, we take it, and we try and make sure that you get to actually take the action that brings the results. So that's what we like to do. But we're here for everything, for property issues, people who just want general advice, because there is a need for it. And that's why we call this the GP clinic. It's just like you would go to your doctor with any issues you might have, so that you can get advice and help on direction on how to treat that particular issue. And that's what we are here for as well. So finance, anything to do with inheritance. We very much heavily look at wealth planning, structure, organization, pension planning, all of that to do with your property journey and beyond. So, you know, wealth planning is a big thing. A lot of people getting into this, but not really planning out their structure, as so to speak, and wealth planning for the future. So, you know, there's so many things that we do like to help with and offer you. And if we can't personally do it, we have a great power team that can lead you and guide you and direct you. So on that note, as Adia said, thank you very, very much for joining us. Like I said, we are here the first Wednesday of every month. Anybody who knows me knows that I always like to end my calls with a quote. So, what are my quotes for today? Right. Property investment, I've said this before, property investment isn't about bricks and mortar, it's about possibility. Each investment is a step closer to building the legacy that you envision. So stay focused, stay persistent, and your success will follow. So from me and from the rest of the team here at NPC, thank you for joining us. And until we see you again, hopefully next month, do not count the days, but make your days count. Okay? Take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye.